This is question number 27 in the June 2013 non-calculator paper. This is a common question in the non-calculator paper. It's a vectors question, and for those of you who are working towards top grades, B, A star, these are the type of questions, the vectors questions are the ones in which you could pick up some easy marks, and actually it's sometimes pretty straightforward and you could pick up all the marks. They're fairly predictable, and this is definitely the case in here. Right? In this particular question it says PQRS is a parallelogram, right? And you could see that from the shape. N is the point on SQ such that SN to NQ is 3 to 2, is in the ratio of 3 to 2. And this sort of thing is quite typical in these questions. SN is 3 units, NQ is 2 units, right? So you're thinking about that ratio there. PQ is A, so P to Q is A. That means that S to R is also A. Yeah, so this is sort of some vectors knowledge that you need to have. And PS is B, and because QR is parallel and the same size as PS, that is also B. Right, so the same logic occurs with SR. All right, the first part of the question says write down in terms of, now write down means that you can actually just pick this up from the question. Right, there's not any workings or anything like that. In terms of A and B, an expression for SQ. Now to get from S to Q, I could go from S to P and P to Q. And if I'm going from S to P, I'm going in the opposite direction to that arrow. S to P is minus. So I'm actually, if I write it down here, S to P plus P to Q. S to P is going to be minus B, and P to Q, that is exactly what we've been given. That's plus A. Now I could write my answer like that. I could leave it like that, or I could write A minus B. Both of those are the same, and that'll get me that 1 mark. It's pretty straightforward mark, and pretty easy to get. The next part of the question, and you can see it there, it says express NR in terms of A and B. Express NR in terms of A and B. Now, we want to get from N to R. To get from N to R, I'm actually going to use this pathway, N to Q, and then Q to R. How do I work this out? We know Q to R. I wrote it down earlier. Q to R is the same as P to S, so that's going to be B. But N to R, right, how do I do that? Well, let's just start writing down the pathway, right? N to R is N to Q, and then from Q I need to go to R. Now Q to R, I know this bit is going to be just B from my diagram above. N to Q, even from the diagram here, I should be able to see. And also, you need to be thinking, why did they ask me to do part A? There is always a reason for that. I know S to Q. S to Q, and they've told me that Sn to Nq is in the ratio 3 to 2. So what fraction of S to Q is N to Q? NQ, if I think about how many parts this whole thing is, it's 5 parts, 3 plus 2. So this section here is going to be 2/5 of the whole line, and this section here is going to be 3/5 of the whole line. So going back to what I was going to write down here, NQ is going to be 2/5 of SQ. Using that information, I can actually do this workings out and work out this 2/5 of SQ, and remember I said SQ was A minus B, and to that I'm going to add QR. So remember I want to go from N to Q, and then from Q all the way up to R. QR is B. And that's pretty much it. I just need to simplify and tidy that up, bring all the b's together. So I'm going to end up with multiplying out that brackets to give me 2/5 a minus 2/5 b plus b. That is 2/5 a, and minus 2/5 plus 1, or minus 2/5 b plus 1b is going to be positive 3/5 b. That is my final result, and I'll write that in my answer space. NR is 2/5a plus 3/5b. Now this question is pretty straightforward, right? It is quite daunting if you're not particularly up to speed with some simple fractions and understanding the principles of vectors. It can be quite challenging, but otherwise, if you're aiming for top grade, it's definitely one that you need to do, and you need to make sure you near enough get full marks on it.